Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and today we are going back in time once again to the 1990s, and this time we are going to be discussing why Green with Evil still remains the greatest story arc for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So, when I was getting into Power Rangers back in the 90s, I thought for the most part the show was very enjoyable, very epic, a lot of fun, and I wouldn't be lying if I said there wasn't any corny moments because there were a few. Probably even more so when I rewatched the show again 5 years ago, back in 2020. But by and large, I thought it was a very good show, but it had a very standard, straightforward formula. Good versus evil, the team fighting the monster of the week, repeat. There was nothing that really grabbed your attention in that respect. There wasn't really anything that made you feel, how are these guys going to get out of this one? Or how are they going to beat this villain? There was nothing really that you could say, oh my god, what's going to happen next? But it wasn't until we got to Green with Evil, which was a 5 part episode story arc. By this point, the show hadn't really done any multiple part episodes. For the most part, the show's basic formula was 20 plus minutes, done, repeat. So this introduced us to a brand new character, Tommy Oliver, played by the one and only, the late great Jason David Frank. So this was a brand new character. Nobody had ever seen him before. Nobody had heard of him. And it was quite obvious from the moments we saw this guy that this was going to be something very special and very different. So Tommy was a fighter and a damn good one as well. And he first met the team when Tommy and Jason were in a competition together, and you could clearly see that Tommy had a different vibe to the others. He was more of a loner. He had a very calm presence to him, very soft spoken, but he had a lot of intensity, as you could see in his fighting style. So it was obvious that this guy was going to play an important role in this story arc. But little did any of us know that he would not only go on to play an important role in this story arc in particular, but he would ultimately change the game and the entire dynamic of the show. So Tommy became Rita Repulsa's Green Ranger, thanks to the sixth power coin that she had kept away for thousands of years. And Tommy was now a villain under the control of Rita. So this made Tommy a different villain compared to the others that the Power Rangers had battled before. This was one of their own. And for me, growing up, watching this, I thought to myself, okay, this is going to be epic. This isn't King Sphinx or Pudgy Pig or any of those villains. This is one of their own. This is going to be good. And for the most part, the Power Rangers didn't really know who the Green Ranger was. Us, as the viewers, knew because we had seen Rita kidnap Tommy, brainwash him, corrupt him, and made him her Green Ranger. And what a first impression the evil Green Ranger made. In part one, he destroyed the command center, he took out Alpha, he dismantled Zordon and sent him away into another dimension. This guy was, as I said already, a different villain. No one had ever broken into the command center before. Because why would they? They weren't a Power Ranger. They never had a power coin. But the Green Ranger did. And he was sending out a message loud and clear. He was out to get the Power Rangers. Now, unlike Rita's monsters, they were just merely following instructions. Destroy Angel Grove, defeat the Power Rangers, blah, blah, blah. With the Green Ranger, it was different. He wasn't just about destroy Angel Grove. He wanted, under Rita's orders and control, wipe out the Power Rangers, break them physically and emotionally. And what's better way to do that by destroying the command center, their mentor, Zordon, and their friend and companion, Alpha 5. This guy was out to get them in a big way. And in that same episode, part one, he took on all five Rangers and physically dominated them. And that all started when he jumped into the Megazord and just kicked the crap out of all of them. And Green Ranger made a huge impression, not just on me, but on everyone. For the first time since the show's inception, we finally had a villain who could not only match the Power Rangers blow for blow, but he could hang with them and absolutely take them apart. And this was just part one. This was only part one. And for the next 4 parts after part one, the Green Ranger absolutely owned the Power Rangers at every turn. They just couldn't get a hit on him. They couldn't pin him down for long enough. You know, this guy was super dangerous, and that laugh was just iconic. That evil, booming laugh, which still gives me chills to this day as I'm talking. It's just so iconic. Even if you didn't see the Green Ranger, you could feel his presence. It was just unbelievable. And the message he left at the end of part one, to the fall of the Power Rangers, I'll destroy you one by one. Wow. You couldn't ask for a better debut for a bad guy, quite like the Green Ranger. And Jason David Frank, to his credit, he put on the best performance of his acting career. He showed that he could be a real despicable villain. And the thing is, with the Green Ranger, what made him such a brilliant and iconic villain, he was a man of few words. He did speak, but he wasn't all about big speeches. He kept his dialogue short and sweet, and he was so cold and evil at the same time. And then you had the glowing green eyes as well. Just magic. And, you know, most of the times Green Ranger didn't really speak that much, but when he did, oh boy, it was excellent. And that other great scene where Jason was kidnapped and teleported to the dark dimension, and he was left alone with Green Ranger, and Green Ranger very evilly and calmly said, I've been looking forward to this. Bone chilling. Absolutely bone chilling. And Jason pretty much spewed his venom at him by saying, You're a Power Ranger. Why do you fight for evil? You should be fighting for good. And Green Ranger very calmly just said, Because you know I'll beat you. Doesn't get any better than that. I loved it. And the story arc for 5 parts, each part just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And this was all leading up to a huge battle. For me, I love Green with Evil. I love all 5 parts. But for me, part 4 was the best part ever, because you had the debut of Scorpina, which we're not really discussing Scorpina here, but we're just highlighting it. We had Scorpina, we had Goldar, and then we had the Green Ranger, who was grown really tall thanks to Rita. All 3 of them, led by the Green Ranger, destroyed Megazord, with Rita blocking out the sun, cutting off Megazord's powers. Wow. Unbelievable stuff. And to me, that was the highlights of the Green with Evil story arc. Seeing Megazord surrounded, Green Ranger laughing away very evilly with the Sword of Darkness, and yes, Goldar and Scorpina played their part in destroying Megazord, but ultimately, I have to give all credit to the Green Ranger because if Green Ranger wasn't involved in that battle, would it have gone down the same way? It probably would have, but maybe not as quickly. But when you added the Green Ranger to the mix, that was it. It was game over. And another thing that has to be highlighted about the Green Ranger in particular was what a costume he had. Such a cool, badass costume. He didn't look like your typical Power Ranger compared to the rest of the team. He had the gold armor, the shield, the cuffs, the armbands on the boots as well. Everything about him, he just looked like a real serious warrior. And all throughout the story arc, no one knew that Tommy was the Green Ranger. There were little clues dropped to them, but you know how the writing is. They're a bit, yeah, I don't know, really, is he? But you knew eventually they would find out, and they did find out, and this all led to the climax for Part 5. We got the debut of Dragonzord, and Jason made it his one-man mission to break Rita's spell once and for all and save Tommy from Rita's corruption and mind control. And what a climax it was. An intense battle, not just between Megazord and Dragonzord, but more specifically between the Red Ranger and the Green Ranger. And it was fantastic. And to have Tommy freed from Rita's control, but actually have him join the team. Crazy stuff, legendary stuff, you name it. And this would get further explored years later in the Boom Studios comic books, where in the first 6 to 8 issues you had Green Ranger Year 1 post Green Evil. So he's joined the team now, and in the comic books he had to try and win their trust after all of the evil things he did, which I thought was really good. I wish they did that in the show for a couple of episodes where he tried to win everyone round after all of the horrible things that he did under Rita's control. But in the show, it was like, yeah, we got the sixth guy on the team. He's one of us now. All is forgiven. But I liked what they did in the comic books. But this story arc got a hell of a lot of mileage. It was always referenced. It was always hinted at. And rightly so, because this was damn good stuff. And Jason David Frank was a huge part of that success. And well deserved, I might add. I would have liked to have seen Tommy become evil one more time for a couple of episodes, maybe under Lord Zed's control. He did get brainwashed again, but it was only for like a few minutes. But I would have liked to have seen, Green Ranger go back to the dark side one more time for a couple of episodes. And obviously they get him back, but I loved the Green Ranger, but I loved him more as a bad guy because he was so cool. And to show how popular evil Green Ranger was, they brought him back to fight the White Ranger. They brought him back as an evil clone back in season 2. What does that tell you? That really tells you how popular and how beloved this character, or this version of the character, really was. And, whenever you ask fans what's the best story arc from the original Power Rangers run, without fail and without hesitation, they instantly say to you, Green with Evil. And there's a good reason for that, because it was different. It gave a serious tone to the storytelling. It put the Power Rangers in a real serious position. It led you to believe that maybe they might not be able to come out on top. And they got their butts handed to them for quite some time. So this wasn't your typical monster of the week or your one-shot villain. this was a real deal. And from my understanding, this was only meant to be a one-time deal. Green Ranger would have been defeated, and that would have been it. I believe Jason David Frank wasn't intended to be kept on the show for as long as he did. I think he was only meant to do the 5-part episode and he was done. But because of how popular he was and how much the fans loved him and how successful the story arc was, they kept him on. Best decision they ever made. And even after the Green Ranger's powers were gone, they brought him back, temporarily, of course. And even after Tommy became the White Ranger, they still made little references about his past as the Green Ranger. He never ever fully went away. But wow, what a story arc. 5 parts. Doesn't get any better than that. To me, Green with Evil was the peak of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I even remembered Fox Kids showed it as kind of like a TV movie. They pretty much stuck all 5 parts together and aired it as like a full length movie for television. Wow. I think it could have worked as a movie. The writing was strong, everyone brought their A game, it was emotional, a little bit dark in some spots, but by and large, it was fantastic and a true credit to everyone involved. But yeah, I would definitely say Green with Evil was by far the greatest story arc ever for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. There's been loads of good story arcs, don't get me wrong, but that one, Green with Evil, legendary, the peak of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you guys think of Green with Evil? Did you enjoy it? Do you rate it as the greatest story arc for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? What was your first impression of Green Ranger? Did you like him? Do you prefer him as a good guy or as a bad guy? Do you think Green with Evil could have worked as a full-length movie for television? And what was your favourite moment from Green with Evil? Was it when Tommy first became the Green Ranger? Or was it when he physically dominated the entire team? Or when he helped destroy Megazord? Or the first appearance of Dragonzord? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.